listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome to the GM Shuffle. Michael Lombardi. I'm Patrick Mahomes. Week 7 NFL concludes tonight. Monday night doubleheader. Baltimore, Tampa Bay. Right now you've got Baltimore on the road laying 3.5, a big total of 50. The Chargers at Arizona. Right now you got the Chargers laying a point and a total of 44. So the Jets are cooked by Russ. The Lions, Michael, win the Battle of the North. Kansas City somehow does it again. But as we do on GM Shuffle, we're going to start a little unconventionally because Twitter, Michael, was out yesterday. And watch out, Panther fans, and watch out, Patriot fans. So we'll start in London. Tarmac Dougie gets on the plane. He makes it back to Jacksonville as the Jags fall behind 10-0. And then, as Jerod Mayo says, his soft Patriots end up losing 32-16. Michael, what the hell was that?
First of all, I mean, why does he continue to get a pass, right? And of course, I am known as the Belichick lobbyist, right? But do you really have to lobby for a guy that's won 6 Super Bowls? Okay, it wasn't great at the end. I think to me, he deserved the right to try to clean up the mess. You know, they say, well, he does a horrible job picking the groceries. Elliott Wolf was there for 5 years. He was helping pick the groceries. Matt Groh was there. Matt Groh ran the draft for him 2 years. He was there for Matt Groh's, I think, been there 16 years. Like, at what point did he just say, I'm not listening to anybody? But what drives me insane is this narrative. Well, you know, the cupboard was bare when Belichick got there. Okay, the cupboard's bare. Well, why did you restack the cupboard with all the players that you said were bad? I mean, you signed Duger back. You give Gottschall a new contract. You go and pay Barmore all this money. You sign Uche back. You bring McMillan back. You bring all these players back, you know, and all of a sudden now it's Belichick's fault. You brought him back, and Mayo's sitting there screaming, well, we have no talent. Look, your job isn't you're not a TV critic. You're not working at Nesson. Your job is to say, hey, it's my responsibility to fix this. The team gets worse and worse each week. What about defensively? They were a good team defensively last year. They're not a good team at all this year. Like, at some point, stand up and be a coach, but that's not Mayo's style. I mean, Mayo has got that job. He and Kraft were meeting all of last year behind the scenes. It was a foregone conclusion that Belichick was going to get fired. It was the worst kept secret in football. Everybody knew it, but Mayo was late to meetings because he was meeting with Kraft in Las Vegas one time. So, like, look, you know, everybody knew it. It's what's going on. But, like, I got no problem. Really, I want to be very clear here. Robert Kraft owns the team. He can do anything he wants to do, and he and Jonathan can do whatever they want to do, right? But what they can't get away with is continue to keep blaming the guy that won 6 Super Bowls for them. And Mayo has to take accountability. Mayo's running the team. Mayo, it's a collaboration. Jonathan, Robin Glazer, Mayo, Elliott, whomever else they have in lock, stock, and barrel. They're all making decisions that are benefiting the team. Why are they allowed to get away with this horseshit organization and poor coaching? Even if you don't even get into the offseason, just evaluate Mayo. Like, my question, what I put on Twitter, Patrick, is if Mayo didn't come out in the second half, would anybody notice? Do you ever watch him coach? Do you ever watch him coach? Like, seriously, if he didn't come out at halftime, if he stayed inside, you know, and just played video games, do you think anybody would pay attention? Of course not. Like, all he does is blame everybody. He's a spokesman. That's what at some point, you know, look, this team, I got to get it better. I mean, Dan Quinn, Washington had less defensive talent than New England had. I think that's a fact, right? They went out and signed a bunch of players, and they got a great quarterback. Well, why are they winning? Their offensive line stunk all of last year. Why are they winning and New England can't? You think Ron Rivera did a really good job of stockpiling the talent in Washington? Oh, they're so talented that Ron left. They're not blaming Rivera for all the picks, the bad. They traded a first-round pick, Josh Dotson, for a third. I mean, but yet the narrative is because it's controlled by New England. This is what they want to put out. No, stop for a second. Stop reading fake news and look at it. Was Belichick responsible for the losing? No question. He takes accountability for it. But you can't blame him while he's gone. Oh, I get it. When he starts to win, then we're going to take credit for the winning if they ever win. They're never going to win. I've been waiting for the popcorn. I've been saying to everybody, just wait for the season. Just everything was wonderful this offseason. We're going to play basketball in the gymnasium. We're going to ride bikes around. Everybody's happy. Now he's calling his team soft. Give me a break.
Okay, screw it. I have to ask you, I haven't talked to you in a long time. Elephant in the room. The way the Crafts are comporting themselves is very unbecoming. We understand the documentary. The blame game. Mayo's calling his team soft. He's 1-6. It's his team. It's his culture. That wasn't a soft team last year. It wasn't a great team. Please explain to us why the blame game on Belichick. Why the deflection? Please.
Because they want to take credit for the 6 Super Bowls. There's the only explanation. Like at some point, they're trying to take credit. I mean, that documentary backfired. There's no question it backfired. Now they can put out press releases and saying that, we had nothing to do with it, even though it says Kraft production at the end of the thing. We had nothing to do with it, right? Why can't they take the high road? The guy won 6 Super Bowls. Okay. Kraft last week said, well, I didn't trust him. I couldn't trust him. I should have had better checks and balances. Wait a minute. You won 6 Super Bowls. Did you have those checks and balances? Like at some point, when does somebody call a reality? Look, again, I'm going to say this really clearly. He has every right to run his team. He has every right to put Jonathan in charge of his team. He owns the team. But don't try to pretend Jonathan's not running the team. Don't do that. Like stand up there and be accountable like everybody else has to be. I know he's an owner of an NFL team. I get that. And he's won 6 Super Bowls. Take credit in that. But this is really about envy. This is about really, as Charlie Munger once said, the worst personality trait you can have is envy. It's not greed. It's nothing but envy. That's what it is. And he's very envious of Bill getting credit for the 6 Super Bowl. Well, fucking Bill deserves the credit. He won the Super Bowl. He won 6 Super Bowl. Well, Brady won them. Wait a minute. They held a team, the highest scoring offense in football, to 3 points. But in defense, I mean, they all contributed to it. They built a culture together. And one of the things that I believe wholeheartedly it is Bob Kraft should be in the Hall of Fame for one reason and one reason only, because he hired Belichick. That's why he should be in the Hall of Fame. Right? Not because he decided to claim this player off the waiver wire or that he kept him part of the match. Like, no, stop the nonsense. You own the fucking team. You get credit when the team wins. Eddie DeBartolo down there trying to destroy Bill Walsh. He got in the Hall of Fame because he hired Bill Walsh. Like, I don't get it. Like, why do you have to go out there and keep destroying the legacy? You think this guy's ever going to want to come back to New England and have a trophy? I mean, Doug fucking Peterson has a statue in front of him in front of Philadelphia. He won 1 Super Bowl, right? He won 1 fucking Super Bowl. He's got a statue in front of him there. And yet the Crafts keep piling on Belichick. They do it subversively through their contacts in the media. I mean, they're wired in the media. They're wired in it. It's just, and they can put out the propaganda that they want to put out. And this nonsense is just what it is. It's nonsense. Take accountability. You wanted to make a change. You saw Mayo as a lightning rod coach 5 years ago. I don't know what you saw. I really don't. I give you all the props for seeing it in Bill. I don't know what you see in Mayo. Mayo never even called the defense. So, like, it's a comedy. I'm just trying to get some balance here. And I think the smart New England fans know it. I think the ones that want to cling on, well, Bill had a bad 4th-round pick. He won 6 Super Bowls for you. What do you give a fuck about the 4th-round pick?
So the Patriots 1-6, and all of a sudden the rookie head coach. And by the way, is he allowed to talk to his assistants on the sideline? Because it does appear he's in his own world, and now he's calling his team soft, which is such
channeling his inner Art Shell. He's channeling his inner Art Shell. Like, there was a drinking game going around. If you ever saw Art Shell's lips move, you had to take a drink, And so, like, I mean, I don't know what the guy does on Sunday other than sit back. I mean, he might as well have a job with Tom Curran working for Nesson and fucking critique the game, whatever they do. Like, what is he doing? And he comes to the press conference, we're a soft team. Wait a minute. The team is a reflection of you. How do you even let him make that statement? Like, wait a minute, Mayo, if you say this really is you're self-indicting yourself. I mean, you coach the team. You're the one who said we need a kinder, gentler program. Elliot Wolf said the same thing. Not going to be as harsh around here. How's this working out for you? How's it working out for you?
And by the way, Dan Campbell's not Vince Lombardi, but could you ever imagine Campbell throwing his team under the bus as a soft team? It just would never happen.
No, because he's a head coach. I mean, look, I never thought Dan Campbell was going to be this good. I was wrong on that. I give him props. He's tougher. But look, this team, you can't say this is a rebuilding team. You had $100 million of cap room. The facts remain. The last 10 years in the National Football Leagues, the Kraft family spent the least amount of money of any NFL team. Now, they can blame it on Belichick saying he's too cheap. He didn't want to spend money. Okay, great. You didn't spend any money last year. Now that he's going out of the building, did you spend any money? Of course you didn't. You had no offensive lineman. You bitched about that, right? You hired Alex Van Pelt to be your offensive coordinator. Okay, who made that hire? Did Bill come in and hire him and leave? I mean, like, what's going on? I mean, all I can tell you is they were good on defense last year. They had a shitty kicker and a shitty quarterback, right? I mean, if you fix those, if they would have kept Nick Folk on the team, that wasn't a bad decision by Belichick. If you keep Nick Folk instead of Ryland, you probably would have won 3 more games. Would that have changed it? No, because the coup was already in place. I mean, everybody knew Mayo was going to be the head coach.
All Bill needs to do.
You got Mike Vrabel sitting out there. Maybe Mike Vrabel's represented by the same guy that represents Bill Belichick. I mean, you think Mike Vrabel doesn't know all the details of what goes on inside that building? Come on.
Conversely, the Commanders, your team growing up, was terrible last year. New culture, 5-2, highest scoring team in the league right now, right? They lose their quarterback yesterday. Mariota comes in seamless. Opposite, 1-6 Panthers, Dave Canales. I mean, this is not good.
They're worse than any expansion team I've ever seen. And look, Dave Canales might be a great guy. And Dan Morgan, those 2 guys are not qualified to run an NFL team. I'm sorry. It's $1 billion industry. There's no credentials to say they should run it. They need adult supervision in the room. Somebody needs to go in that building. And to me, it's an embarrassment. If I were David Tepper and had as much money as he had, you've got to be embarrassed. You just signed this guy to a 6-year contract. He was a coordinator 1 year in the league. He can't handle this job. Morgan was part of the regime before. He can't handle this job. And it goes from bad to worse. I mean, come on, give me a break. I mean, that's the problem with the league, Patrick. We have a lot of teams in this league that have gone young, that have these bright young, that don't know how to manage a team. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to get back in. I don't give a fuck. The reality of it is it's really bad in the NFL right now.
This is a great start to the GM Shuffle. Russ is back and the Jets are cooked. We're going to come back and discuss that week 7 of the NFL right here on the GM Shuffle.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle presented by Smirnoff. We do game days. Please drink responsibly. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Michael Lombardi, I'm Patrick Mahomes. This is the GM Shuffle. So we went over the soft New England Patriots. Now we transfer to the Panthers. So again, 2 stories in this game. One is Washington. Just a tremendous start to the year. Scored 40 again, 5-2. The Panthers 1-6. Now, if we're talking about the Patriots and what they have to do moving forward with a young head coach, at least you feel like you have Drake May. Conversely, with the Panthers, they've got their number 1 overall pick sitting, and Dalton's throwing picks yesterday. What do you make of the Panthers moving forward?
I mean, I think they're worse than any expansion team I've seen. I mean, I didn't think they could. I thought they did something that was impossible to do. They actually got worse. Now, granted, okay, Derek Brown's not playing, but they got worse. I mean, I know you and I remember when we did the show together, we used to laugh about Clowney, how he couldn't stay healthy. Remember that? He's shockingly hurt again, right? I mean, to me, he's a classic example of not having adult supervision. You got an owner and his wife who have no clue. And you say, well, how did they make these decisions? It would be like me. Okay, John Hopkins just hired me to find doctors for their heart division. Like, I have any clue on how to interview a doctor for that? No, of course I don't. I would hire the wrong one, just like Tepper has no clue about who to interview for a head coaching job or who to interview. Like, it's seriously, you're talking about somebody, like, what the guy needs to do is sit back, relax, and just hire somebody. And you imagine, he didn't even interview Belichick. I think he talked to Vrabel, but can you imagine, of all the pool out there, he didn't even call Pete Carroll on the phone. I mean, he did nothing. Like, he did absolutely nothing. Like, he went to this, we're going to hire somebody to come in. This mentality is driving me absolutely fucking insane. We're going to hire somebody to make Bryce Young better. What about hiring somebody to make the fucking team better? How about that? Okay. If we make the team better, then Bryce Young's got a chance to get better. Like if we get somebody in here who has expertise, I don't know who it would be. I mean, it doesn't have to be Belichick or Vrabel. Hire some Pete Carroll. Hire somebody. Go try to hire somebody who knows what the hell they're doing in personnel. But they have no clue. I mean, they promote Dan Morgan, who was part of the regime before, which I never understood anyway. Like, I couldn't understand it. Like, Dan Morgan's a general manager in the National Football League. Are you kidding me? Or seriously? I mean, are you kidding? Like, I've been there. I mean, like, there's no way. He's not qualified. Like, Dave Canales, you look at his resume and say, oh, that speaks like the next head coach of my team. I'm going to give him 6 fucking years. You take over the run. You do this. This resume is so goddamn expressive. I can't believe we could hire you. Let me give you 8 years. Why not? Oh, maybe I'll give you 10. It's so fucking good. Are you kidding me? Pete Carroll had this guy for how long? Pete Carroll hired him as a strength coach. And I don't mean this in disrespect to Dave. I'm talking about Tepper trying to hire Dave. I mean, Pete Carroll had him for 13 years, and Pete said, no, I'm not going to make you my offensive coordinator. He went to Tampa, and he did a nice job in Tampa. He didn't become Mike Martz in Tampa. Let's be fucking clear here, right? Like, they won 9 games. He made Baker better. There's no doubt. But now you're going to give him the keys to this kingdom? I mean, how stupid is that? Like, who's thinking? What happened to common sense? Like, seriously, what happened to common sense? We're a $6 billion fucking enterprise. And we're fucking playing Madden in the basement. Like, Canales and Morgan, that's who's going to run your team. You could have hired Vrabel. You could have hired Pete Carroll. Hire Pete Carroll, say, Pete, coach a team for 3 years, set up your program, make sure you have a successor. Hire Belichick. Bill, come in. You run the whole thing. Show me how to run an NFL team. I'll give you 5 years. You pick up, and then help me pick the successor. Like, how stupid is this? Oh, Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, there's a press conference. That's really going to put people in their seats. Are you kidding me? How about somebody with experience, somebody who's been through this shit before? Dan Morgan, he takes a running back with a bad fucking knee in the second round. He's got Miles Sanders, and he's got Chuba Hubbard on his team. And you're telling me he knows what the fuck he's doing?
Other side, Ben Johnson seemed to be the guy for the Commanders, calls good plays for the Lions. They go for an unsexy hire in Quinn. They bring in Adam Peters. Everything kind of settles down. They get Jaden Daniels. They don't go crazy signing big names. Ayuk wanted to come, others, right? They just kind of stayed in their shoes. Now all of a sudden, you're 5-2. I think Daniels is going to be okay with the rib. He looked fine on the sideline, but you just plugged Mariota in, and what you saw was a continuation of the system. You like what's happening with the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, and give Cliff Kingsbury a ton of credit, right? I mean, he's done a really good job. They had a plan, all right? They signed Daniels, and they found somebody similar to Daniels and Mariota. Now, can he stay healthy? I don't know, but for that moment in that game, look, I think the bigger issue, if you're David Tepper watching Carolina, your team's not even trying. Like, they're not even trying. Like, their tackling is so poor.
The tackling was atrocious.
It's been that way, Patrick, for 3 weeks. They can't tackle anybody. They don't practice. They don't know what they're doing. Everything's kumbaya. They're going to, everybody's going to go to Dairy Queen. We're all happy, but we're fucking getting the shit kicked out of us here. You're calling this the National Football League? There's so many bad teams. Hey, how about Cleveland? You think they're a good team? I mean, Schwartz is coaching the shit out of them on defense, but on offense, they haven't scored more than 18 points all year. But it's okay. It's okay. The analytics has got that handled in Cleveland. They'll figure it out.
Watson out with the ACL. Obviously, not a good reaction from the Cleveland crowd, but something needed to happen there. Like, literally, I'm not hoping the kid gets injured, but that just started to get ugly.
But I used to say this all the time at the Raiders, and I said this in a way. I always would say we are a couple injuries away from having a good team, but they had to be the right injuries, right? Because we were playing guys that Al loved. I can remember when we were playing Anthony Dorsett ahead of Rob Woodson at free safety. And thankfully, Dorsett hurt his plantar fascia against Tennessee in a preseason game. And that injury allowed us to play Rob Woodson at free safety, which was great. The Browns were an injury away. Now, I don't know if Dorian Thompson-Robinson's the answer, because I don't think that's the case at all. But at least Winston will come in and give them some life. What I was surprised by was the reaction of Myles Garrett and Winston about Deshaun Watson, how much they really, how hard he was working, all that, because you couldn't see it on the tape. If that's true what they're saying, then the he can't play anymore. Because to me, it looks like he's so nonchalant about his game and he can't throw the football at all. I thought his arm, it just doesn't make any plays. Meanwhile, I know Amari Cooper had a drop, but Amari Cooper came to life with Josh Allen up in Buffalo. So, look, this Browns team is, again, you don't think coaching matters? You let Bill Callahan walk out that building, right? I know he wanted to go be with his son. But we're talking about football. We're talking about winning games. You let him go be with his son, and not only did you make Tennessee better, you made our team worse because he held line together.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And the conversation from last night, Michael, hand to God, I loved the Jets last night, and it felt good too. Going into the break, right? And then 24-0. All of a sudden, Russie woke up. 24-0 in the second half, Pittsburgh. This Jet situation is only going to get worse.
I don't see how it gets better. If they've had their two moments, where they could come together. Now, look, I know they missed a lot of guys on defense, but Rodgers is at 6.5 yards per attempt. I wrote about it in the Daily. I wrote about it for VSiN on Friday in my column. He hasn't played well. The 22 year there, he was not very good in Green Bay. One of his worst numbers he's ever had. And now he's on pace to have the worst numbers. Plus, he's turning the ball over, something he never used to do before. Now, look, the Garrett Wilson one, was that on him? But trying to throw the ball down the middle of the field into that coverage when he had the angle route wide open, that's not usually what Rodgers does. And defensively, look, I got to be honest. I didn't think I thought Russ's arm was really disappointing. He underthrew a lot of balls. He lobbed a lot of them up there. But, he made the plays that they had to make. They finally got the ball down the field to Pickens, and he made plays for them. And look, don't underestimate Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is, for all those people that said he's not going to go over the total, he's already at 5 wins.
So the targets were there, Michael, for Adams, 9 targets, 3 catches. You could tell, obviously, he was concerted on that. The Wilson pick, that's not on Rodgers. The one over the middle was horrific. And now all of a sudden you've got a team. That was a desperation spot for the Jets yesterday. As we move forward, what are your expectations for them?
Well, they got the Patriots coming up. They got a softie coming up. They got to go to New England. If they can't beat New England up there, and if New England doesn't play better, who knows? But they should be able. They couldn't move the ball at all against the Jets. They couldn't block the Jets the last time they played them. But the Jets don't look like they're very well coached either right now. There's too many details. That offensive line for the Jets is not very good. Tyron Smith, Dallas took a lot of shit for letting a lot of players go, but not Tyron Smith. He's not very good right now, and the Jets' offensive line isn't good. Look, the Jets' problems were the same problems they had in the offseason. They need to fix their offense. They didn't do it. Now they're trying to manage it together with Todd Dowling. And are we really sure that Aaron Rodgers can go back to the 22 MVP year that he can? I don't see it. I've seen no evidence to support it in 7 games. I think he's not as fast as he once was. I think he's got to have really good protection. But, and they can't really run the football. Breece Hall made a couple runs, but for the most part, there's not enough diversity in their run attack to really make it a difference.
Conversely, so the Browns fall to 1-6. The Bengals, I should just follow up there. Now 3-4, 21-14 wins. Not like it was overly impressive, but are you starting to think, and this is what he does there, the coach, he starts to build. Are you starting to think at 3-4 the Bengals are still in the mix?
Look, I think this is the big game in Philly this week, right? They've got to get and look, they couldn't run the ball against Philly at all. Then I didn't think Burrow was under attack the whole time. Now I know Orlando Brown got hurt in the game, but he only had 10 incompletions. He got sacked 3 times, but he protected the football. It was a hard game for them to win. I give them credit. They usually don't win up there either, which makes a difference too, right? They typically don't win up there, but I felt like it was one of those games where, you're not going to play pretty against the Browns, but you're able to come away with the win. This one against Philadelphia, that's the key one. They got to beat Philly. It's a must-win for them. It's a must-win for Philly to prove their defense is back because their defense did play good against the Giants.
We'll talk about Philly coming up here in a bit. They pick up a big division win in New York. But when we return here on the GM Shuffle, the Battle of the North. It had been 30 years since my Lions won a division. They won it last year. Now they beat the undefeated. And I was hearing from Will Hill. He was texting me. Come on now. He's a Vikings fan. He's texting me essentially a walk-off for my Lions. A great game. I think two pretty good teams. We've been talking about bad teams. When we return, let's talk about a couple of good teams. I think the Lions and Vikings fit that bill. We'll have that next here. GM Shuffle, Michael Lombardi.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
GM Shuffle, Michael Lombardi, I'm Patrick Maher. So the Lions, Michael, go to Minnesota, 31-29 win. But a couple of things. One, you look up and down the stats, it's all equal, 391 to 383. Everything essentially equal with the metrics. I'll say this, the Lions, they needed it, they got it. I think I took more from the Vikings because, frankly, I didn't know what they were at 5-0. And if they could have just chewed clock when they got the ball back up 1 instead of 3 and out, that was a pretty good spot for the Vikings. I have to say, I just walked away from it thinking, you know what? Two very good teams. The Vikings and Lions are legit.
Yeah, and I thought your point's well taken. I thought that if there was ever going to be a game where Sam Darnold exploded and went back to being the Jet Sam Darnold, it might be this game, right? A lot of pressure on him. Could he have played better? Yeah, but I thought he played winning football. I give him that. And, I think to me, I wasn't anticipating Aaron Jones playing. I took Detroit in the Russo contest because I felt like it was a good play. I thought they should have been favored in the game. And I got a good 1.5, which to me, if they would have run the clock out, I was in good shape one way or the other. But I feel like they're both really good teams. I think this could be, I don't know how the seeding will go, but we might see this game 3 times. We're going to see it again, and we might see it again in the playoffs. I don't think this is over. I think Minnesota's for real. Now, to give Detroit credit, it's hard to run the ball in Minnesota, and Detroit did. And Montgomery wasn't their best back on this day. It was Gibbs. But that's the versatility of their team. But their team isn't about Ben Johnson, the play caller. He's outstanding. Their team's about their mental toughness, their ability to stick together. I thought St. Brown's interview after the game about Goff in the huddle. I mean, this Goff, as much as I've criticized him over the years for not really being able to hang in the pocket, he got sacked 4 times yesterday. I thought he played really well. And the guy hasn't missed. I mean, he's become the new – Phil Taylor's the greatest dart thrower ever in the history of darts. And this guy's, and I used to think Aaron Rodgers was Phil Taylor. This guy's become the best dart thrower. I think he's had like 5 incompletions over the last 3 games.
No, I'm wrong. Yeah, I thought Goff was basic. Goff has entered the MVP conversation. I mean, he's 22, 25. No picks. Ross St. Brown, Gibbs running off. Like, this is an offense that can be scary.
How is Mahomes' odds for MVP? It's like Carson Beck going to be the first pick overall in the draft. I mean, first of all, can we get that Carson Beck's going to be lucky to be he'll be a 3rd string, 2nd string at best. He's not the first pick, and he's no answer for anybody. Quinn Ewers, the same thing. And I'm not picking on either player, but you have to evaluate them. That's what you do for a living. How is Mahomes the MVP? The Mahomes hasn't played good all year, and they're still undefeated. I think Goff deserves a lot of this. Really, he does. If you don't want to give it to T.J. Watt, then you got to really have Goff in this conversation because what he's doing is historic. I mean, it's historic. The throw he makes at the end of the game to get him into makeable field goal range, not try field goal range like Zach Taylor did 2 weeks ago. Like that throw there, that window was as tight as could be, and it was perfect. And he had to move a little bit. I think the only throw he missed, I forget who it was down the sideline in the 4th quarter, where he had a guy wide open behind the defense and he just missed him. I mean, he threw it out of bounds. I think it was Raymond, right? He threw it out of bounds. Mm-hmm. But that was that was good football in that game. I did agree with Campbell fake punting in the 1st quarter. But think about this Detroit team. They get down 10. They storm back to go up 21-10. They have a 10-point lead. They give it up and they storm back. To me, that's mental toughness. That's what you want in football teams. You want iron hitting iron.
So I'll ask you, best team in the NFC, but quickly, Mahomes 3.5 to 1 to win the MVP. He's your favorite. Josh Allen's 5 to 1, tied with Lamar Jackson at 5 to 1. Goff is 8 to 1, tied with Stroud in the market at 8 to 1 to win the MVP. And Jordan Love is 13 to 1. We'll get to him in a second, of course, with CJ Stroud and Love. But I asked you the question, the Lions, the best team in the NFC? I think what happened in Santa Clara may point to yes.
I think they're the best team in the NFL. I mean, they're going to move the ball in Kansas City if they play them in the Super Bowl. They'll move the ball on them. I mean, now I say this. The one thing I took from the Minnesota game, they need a rusher. I think you took it too, right? I mean, their rush, I know they got 4 sacks on Darnold, but they need more juice on the outside. I thought Aaron Glenn has grown up as a defensive coordinator. I think he's really improved as a defensive coordinator. And, look, they give up yards. They play tough in the red zone. They tackle really well. They're a physical team. You could see they work on their fundamentals, which is important. But I think Detroit's the best team. I had them power ranked number 1 this week, and I think they deserve to be 1. They're just too hard to play because they can run the ball against teams that are really good against the run, and they can throw it on anybody. And look, he only had to throw it 25 times yesterday. See, they use the run to make explosive plays. See, that's where I think people get really confused about establishing the run or running the ball. Look, running the ball, and I've said this 1,000 times, all running the ball does is get you field goals. But running the ball allows you to control the pace of the game, important, and allows you to create big plays with your passing game. That's the benefit of being able to run the ball. If you can't do that, they never get control of the game, and it really becomes harder for them to make explosive plays. So, and then you have no physical toughness as a football team. So it doesn't provide you with the key components to win a title, which clearly Detroit has.
28-18 Super Bowl rematch. The Chiefs are 6-0. They got a well below average game from Mahomes. Purdy had the 3 picks. It was ugly, but again, system, culture. Take the 3 points. Andy Reid, he walks out with a 10-point win with his team playing a C game.
Yeah. No doubt. No, he does. And he's doing it with mirrors. I mean, he doesn't have the most talented team. I mean, he would do that if you put him on the Carolina Panthers sideline. He would figure out a way to win games with them. I thought Tomlin had the greatest line of all time. And it's the same thing that happens with players. It's happened with coaches. Tomlin, they asked him after the game when he said, when you made that decision to go to Russell Wilson, that was a gutsy decision. And he said, well, that's why I'm so well compensated. You pay for greatness. Tomlin, you can't overpay him as a coach. You can't overpay Andy Reid. You can't overpay Belichick. You can't overpay Vrabel. But when you overpay Canales and you overpay other guys, it's the same thing with overpaying a bad player. And I think that's the case. Andy Reid could go into any program that's downtrodden right now and turn that team around because he would figure out what it takes to win and what it takes to lose. And now that he has a team that's not as talented, let's face it, they're not. They're really good on defense. He plays to the strength of the defense. He's got enough stuff offensively to create problems. But this thing that Mahomes is 3-1 favorite to win the MVP, look, he's the best player in the league, but he's not having an MVP season. Let's put that out. It's ridiculous. It's like saying Arch Manning should win the Heisman. I mean, can you imagine the worldwide leaders putting that out too?
So let's stick with Reid. Mahomes is bad in the game. The defense has been consistently good for the Chiefs, but anybody could have had Kareem Hunt, and he was the key because, 22 rushes kept feeding him 78 yards. This is 2 touchdowns. It's Reid's just give me a guy. I'll scheme it up.
Right. And we know Reeves. I mean, remember Bieniemy last year said, Andy Reid would be proud of me because I called 70 passes. Andy Reid just called 22 runs for Kareem Hunt. I mean, he understands winning the game is more important than what we do. And he can't risk those 2 edges. His tackle situation is not good. He knows it, but there's not a lot you can do about it in the NFL. So I think to me, he deserves a ton of credit. And Spagnuolo does too they don't even miss Snead. Everybody thought, well, they're going to be without Snead. No, I mean, they're covering really well. As for the 49ers, I mean, they just got depleted. I mean, they have the Super Bowl loser syndrome. There's no doubt about that. That you could see it. Their team, it gets hurt too easy. The long season, the down, it's hard. They had the tough off season. Now Ayuk's out. Debo, I didn't even hear what was wrong with I never even heard what was wrong with Debo yesterday. I know he missed after the first. But nobody told me what it was on the air. Maybe they did, and I just missed it. I was flipping or something. But they're just not good enough. I mean, they're not good at. They went from being a hard team to defend when they had Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, the fullback, and then they had McCaffrey. They were one of the fastest offenses out of base personnel of any team in the league. Now they're one of the slowest teams in the league.
Yeah, Debo was sick, and that's why. Oh, back to South Carolina. Always something. He's remarkable, but he was sick. He was throwing up before the game, so that's that. Ayuk is done. The 49ers are 3-4. They're looking up at the Seahawks in division, moving forward with the 49ers, Michael.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're going to have to rebound. They got a big game against Dallas. I thought Kyle was good after the press conference where, unlike Mayo, he took full accountability. Look, we just got our asses kicked from everywhere. We got to go as coaches. We got to figure it out, which is true. I mean, they hold Mahomes to 160 yards and they lose the game. They had chances in the game. They just couldn't. And Purdy played one of his worst games I've ever seen him play. And they're playing receivers that really, like that one interception he threw over by the 49er bench where he threw it 15 yards and the receiver broke it off at like 11. I don't know whose fault that was, but that was ugly. The interception in the red zone was horrible in the end zone. I mean, he didn't play good. I mean, and for them to win, he's got to play at a high level, but I'm not sure there's enough experience at receiver around them to play well. They missed Jennings badly yesterday.
Hey, quickly, we should give, I just mentioned Seattle, we should give them credit. You and I were both on Seattle with the number. Coming off two not great performances, give credit to the young coach. Smith continues to deal. That's a 34-14 beatdown in Atlanta.
Yeah, they did a wonderful job. And, I mean, they deserve a ton of credit for that. Look, they got healthier. They made the trade to get Robertson Harris to help them inside. They got healthier with their defensive tackles. I think that was really good. I think Schneider did a good job there. And, look, this Atlanta team is fraudulent. I'm going to keep saying it. I mean, they're not as good as their record was. They've been fortunate to win games. That offensive line, which is, according to Pro Football Focus, the greatest line in the history of football, it sucks. Can't pass protect. You watched the tape yesterday, you could tell you. I mean, it's really not that good. They're paying for it, but it isn't as good as it is. And then still, Patrick, they can't. I mean, we knew Geno Smith was going to have a good day because they can't rush the passer. I mean, they can't rush the passer. They have no ability to really change the game or change the course of the quarterback, and they can't cover that well. So it was a perfect setup. I think taking Seattle to 3 was an easy play. I should have took it in. I don't know why I didn't take it in Russo. I stupidly took the Jets like an idiot. I thought he was going to take the Jets, so I took him. I'm an idiot for that.
I'm right there with you as an idiot. I love the Jets, which means I knew I was on the wrong side going into it. Okay, when we return here on GM Shuffle, we've got our crowning moments. We'll hand out the awards. Also, you've got the Ravens at the Bucks, Monday Night Football, the Chargers at the Cardinals. So 2 good ones coming up tonight to conclude Week 7. As we move along, of course, Michael Lombardi's awards coming up next right here on the GM Shuffle.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
It's the GM Shuffle. Michael Lombardi, I'm Patrick Mahomes. Big Daddy, pay attention. Your Packers are 5-2. The Texans, Michael, 5-2. Where are these two teams? One, it was a great game, 24-22. McManus, the field goal on the final play, so a walk-off for the Packers here. Look, we've been having the Stroud conversation. You almost have to whisper it because he's such a good kid and he had such a great rookie year, but he was not good in the game. And they got something from Mixon. Mixon gave him 115 yards, 25 rushes, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I thought Love was good. I think these are 2 good teams. Where do you put them?
I thought, to me, this game should not have been close. If you took Green Bay and laid the points, it was a bad beat because Green Bay turned the ball over 3 times in the game. And really, they were almost, the one time it was too trap. He didn't recognize it, throws into it. The ball gets tipped up in the air. They fumbled. They gave them everything. I mean, this Stroud threw for less than 100 yards. Stroud has not been the same. Let's be clear. Since he's lost Nico. I mean, go through all their numbers. I mean, all their receivers under 10 yards a catch. They can't make an explosive play down the field. I thought Green Bay's defense was really good. It kept them in the game, and made enough plays, a lot of pressure on Stroud. The offensive line for the Houston Texans was really bad yesterday. A lot of that had to do with Green Bay's front. I did not get one text, Patrick, from Big Daddy, not one the entire Not one. I don't understand it. That was a great win for Green Bay. And give them credit here, too, because we said on Thursday, with this 3-point game, you didn't want to go in with Naverson as the kicker. He's 3 for 4 from the 30 to the 39. He was 5 for 9 from the 40. And that 40-yard kick, whatever it was, that was the game winner. And so I really credit, of course, probably this is why Big Daddy hasn't texted me. He doesn't want to give Goot any credit for making the switch, and I thought they did a really good job. I think Green Bay is in that category of a good team. Like if Green Bay played San Francisco right now, I think they'd win. I think if Green Bay was in the West, they win the West. I think if Green Bay was in the South, they would win the South. I think if Green Bay was in the East, they win the East. Unfortunately, they're in the North, and I think the North's harder.
So let's be honest. Big Daddy, number one Packers fan, of course, Michael Lombardi's cousin. He's a bit of a sandbagger.
Packer complainer.
Like,
I think we need
to fix problems.
Packer complainer, not fan. He's a complainer.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He likes to fix problems. So if you don't hear from him, things are going well. You're not going to hear from Big Daddy when things are going well. They're 5-2, and they have a legit this love. He makes every throw. The conversation of whether or not he's going to be legit is completely over.
Forget about it. And these skill players that they have, it also does away with all these skill players. It shuts down this, unless you draft a receiver in the first 10 picks, you can't get one. It shuts that shit right out the window because these are all 2s and 3s that are playing at a high level. I mean, give Goot credit. He deserves a ton of credit. This is a young team with a good nucleus. And look, I thought Houston played as good as you can on defense. I mean, they rushed. They gave Love a lot of trouble. But when the game was on the line and they needed to make a play, Green Bay made plays, whether it was with Dobbs, with Reed, whomever it was, they were able to make the plays they needed to make. And I thought, it really was an impressive win. I know it was a hard game for them to play. It really was. But to me, it was an impressive game for them because you got to play when you're not playing your best, right? You got to find a way to win when you're not playing your best football, especially when you turned it over. But whether it's Wilkes, I mean, they get Wilkes. I mean, even Watson had one catch for 9 yards in the game. So I think Green Bay, I think you don't want to play Green Bay in the playoffs because if they're going good with this skill, it's hard to play.
Let's hand out some awards here on the GM Shuffle. And we'll start here. Woody was in the building in Pittsburgh. That interim head coach, I'm not going to lie, he does come across as confused to me. I'll just leave that there. They got Devontae Adams, 9 targets, nothing doing. Aaron's 40 and a half. Don't worry.
Collinsworth was making it sound like they got the second generation of the great. Like everything that went right on the field was because Devontae was on the field. Like, no, it wasn't. Like Mike Tomlin didn't even blink. Like they wanted to make sure Garrett Wilson. He had 10 targets. He had 3 catches for averaged 11 yards. Like that's what he's been doing. I mean, that's what Devontae's been doing. Like all this. Why do we have to constantly? Like he was making Wilson to like he was playing it was the Wilson of 13. I thought Wilson was weak on the throws, but the Jets, I mean, come on. That's embarrassing. You go all in and now you're 2-5. Do you really think they have the culture and the character to overcome this?
They're frauds of the week this week, but Hassan Reddick is going to return. So that'll fix it. Devontae, no. Yeah.
Salah is fine.
No.
So he fucked up our team. This must be how much Woody hated Salah. Because not only did Riddick it wouldn't give him money to bring him in. They wouldn't allow him to do it. That Woody basically allows him to come in and waives all the fines when he fucked up their team when they could have used him. Like, if that's not sending a fuck you to Salah, I don't know what is.
What did Bill say with the Mannings? Woody, ready, set, fire? Ready, set, fire. All right, let's go. Fred Plano,
I can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
We talked about it, Seattle. Tremendous win for Seattle.
No question. I thought that was a great game plan. They knew they could throw the ball on a bad Atlanta defense. I mean, at some point, Atlanta's going to figure out to win a title, you're going to have good defensive players. Like, you really need that. Like, to me, any good passing team plays Atlanta, they're going to lose.
On the lam, we talked about Mr. Tepper, Mr. Canales, the Carolina Panthers. Do they make the 12-team playoff? You can go to M. Lombardi NFL to check that tweet out.
Well, you think they would be? I mean, they're horrible. Like I'm telling you, I've been in the league for expansion teams, right? Jacksonville. I remember when Houston was an expansion team. I remember when Carolina was. This has got to be one of the worst collection of players I've ever seen that really have no fundamentals and no techniques. Like it's really bad. Like it's embarrassing to football. It's embarrassing to coaching. It really is. And to me, it goes right on the owner. I mean, like, he's way too involved. And this is what you made changes for? I mean, you fired Steve Wilkes after he had 7 wins for you. He took over for Rule. I mean, I know Rule got the shit kicked out of him by Indiana this week, but Rule's sitting there. Every coach of Steve Wilkes, Rule, they're all laughing. It's never going to get any better. Like, who's going to want to work at Carolina if you're going to be like this?
And Matt Lombardi was in the building then, too. I digress.
Yeah.
Let's go. If you don't know, now you know. There are a few good teams and too many bad teams. That's why I even framed Houston at 5-2. It's like, yeah, I think they're good, but there are too few good teams and too many bad teams here.
Yeah, like you take Indianapolis. They won yesterday. Are they a good team? I mean, I'm watching Miami with no quarterback run the ball. Like, if I would have been Gussie Bradley, I'd have been in goal line defense the whole game and say, okay, throw the ball to beat me, right? Double hill and throw the ball to beat me. I'm just going to play as many defensive. You can't do that. They can't run it, but yet they ran the football. I think Houston's the best in the South. I mean, Jacksonville was dying to quit yesterday and got the huge punt return over there. How about we didn't even talk about the Raiders. How about Antonio Pierce's decision how about that? Oh my God. I mean,
I don't know.
We're a $1 billion organization, and Mark Davis hired this guy to be the head coach. Look, if you wanted to fire, that's fine. Fire Josh McDaniels after you gave him a 6-year contract because Crosby and Devontae wanted him gone. I got it. I understand it. He wasn't. It wasn't going well. Josh made a lot of mistakes. Fire him. But this is what you got worse. I mean, this is bad. This is horrendous. And now you got Gardner Minshew. You got O'Connell out. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like, who's running these teams? Like, where's the expertise? Like, they all sit there and say, well, we're going to be like we're going to idolize Al. None of those people have any idea who Al is in a building. Like, I mean, that blew me away when he kicked that field goal and he thought he was going to get the ball back. Are you serious?
Just glad he didn't punt. Quickly, the Giants, woof, Barkley. Marin was so pissed. We saw him in the vid before the season started. He said, dude, if this guy bites us, I'm going to be pissed. Well, he should be. 176 on the ground and a touchdown. A great return
in 3 quarters. In three quarters. And then it was the best. And it was the best defensive outing that the Eagles have had. I mean, look, the Giants are another team that are broken. I've been saying this for 5 years. Since you've known me, I've been saying how they are. They're just a mom and pop shop that they need an infusion of outside people to come in and fix their problems. I mean, then when Daboll, I really think Daboll must hate Daniel Jones. Like, if I were, as much as I'm not a Daniel Jones fan, if I was his father, I would be on the phone to Daboll, like, why are you killing my kid? How many more quarterback draws are you going to call for my guy? It's almost trying to get him hurt. Like this poor bastard's going to get killed. And the kid's tougher than you think, right? He's running up in there, but I'll be goddamn. Like, how many more times are you going to continue to run this guy? And then you're trying to tell the team he's just like, and I'm not about unnecessary runs. Like, I'm not talking about, okay, the game's on the line and we need a play like Josh Allen ran or something like that. I'm talking about just putting the guy into the wolves. I think I think it was horrible.
Crowning Moments is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. All right, before we get the hell out of here, you know what? I like the games tonight on Monday night. The Ravens open 4.5. It's down to 3.5. They're at the Bucs. This is a hell of a game.
I think it's going to be 2 really good games. I mean, Arizona plays better at home, but I think Herbert's healthy. I think Harbaugh's team's in tune. I think their culture's really good. Who knows with Arizona? If they keep Murray in the pocket, can he really beat you from the pocket? I don't think so. If they can stop James Conner from running the football. Conversely, this is going to be an interesting challenge for Baltimore because it's hard to run the ball on Tampa Bay. Vita Vea inside, they're good up front. That's the strength of the Bucs team. Is, okay, does Baltimore get away from what they really are good at doing, which is running Henry and doing the things they do, and they start throwing it too much, and then all of a sudden now you're dealing with all the blitzes and all those things. So I think this is 2 good chess matches. I really do. What I like about the Chargers tonight, why I took him on Russo, is I think Harbaugh knows how important this game is. I think his team will be ready to play. These are the kind of games you got to win if you're going to make progress in your program.
Right now, if I gave you the Lions-Ravens pick'em neutral field, what do you do?
I'm going to take the Lions. The Ravens won't cover them. And they can block the Ravens front. Look, I think the Lions can do anything. The Lions can run the ball even against the best run defense. The Lions are the best team in the league. They just flat out are the best team in the league. They got to get another rusher. I would trade for Josh Uche right now. I'd give a 5th-round pick for him to New England. I'd not only trade for him, I'd trade for Zadarius Smith at Cleveland. I would get as many rushers as I am. If I get that rusher, I'm good.
Music to my ears, brother. I'll see you Thursday. GM Shuffle and Elliott Production. He's Michael Lombardi. I'm Patrick Maher.